Hello everyone, CPAT here bringing you another Exceed commentary. Today we have another match in Jungy's Japes Returns. We have a lot of these. This is going to be week 4 of the pools between Pickle. We unfortunately did not get to ask Pickle whether it was Picklesword or Picklesword, so we'll just call him Pickle. And ChucklyFun, a character, actually both these guys I believe I casted last week, although Pickle, we had kind of an issue where I joined his game late twice or something like that, so we only caught the back end of his games. And I believe ChucklyFun's game we casted last week, maybe against Ice Pop Addict. I'm not 100% certain, but you can go back through the playlist and check it out. Anyways, game's already underway. Matchup here, we have Enchantress from ChucklyFun against Carl Clover from Pickle here. And the one thing I will say is it's hard for people to catch, it's hard for Nirvana to catch up to people just because she really doesn't have too much movement. So I'm kind of interested to see how Pickle is going to not grasp the card, but I guess I should say catch up to how Nirvana is going to be able to catch up to Enchantress, who, with her innate ability of drawing a bunch of cards in hand. And we have a turn 1 parry miss, handful of normals here. I feel like this was on Confoco or something. I was parry Confoco. That's by far, not by far, but that's definitely a super, super scary card that also gives Nirvana movement, which I feel like she'll need, because with Enchantress's ability, she can kind of generate a lot of force very quickly, being able to refill her hand on turns that she doesn't strike on front side. And so I'm interested to see how Pickle's going to navigate this. It seems, on paper, it seems kind of tough for Carl Clover, but, we'll see. This is not a matchup I've played before, like every other time that I've casted a match, but that's kind of my guess. So yeah, let's see what happens. Interesting. So Carl offs boost cross here. So we did see a handful of normals, so there is the risk of a reading happening here. And with 0, 5, 6, you read something like Assault, play a fast thing, or you play like Sweep and Run Away. Enchantress herself has a lot of different options here that she can abuse with the handful of no normals with 0, 2, 5 there. There's definitely ways to abuse that. This is interesting positioning from Carl Clover. This is kind of the reverse of what you want in a lot of cases. Generally, I feel like you want the doll close and you want Carl far, but one card in particular that does function well in this board state is Volante, which allows Carl to advance forward and kind of gain the sandwich. The sandwich, colloquially known as basically if Nirvana's on your space or you're in between Nirvana and Carl, specials and ultras gain +1 power and +1 speed. Okay, this is interesting. Katabale, a super, super good special in my opinion. Not a very scary one, but just a good one. Just a good, solid special here. Used as the boost here. So La Campanella gives a little bit of movement for Nirvana, which is great because Nirvana was kind of stuck in no man's land here, right? And that's basically the worst thing for Nirvana, is to get stuck in no man's land, because it can be very hard for her to get back into the game, so to speak. But this boost on a really good combat card for Carl, used as the boost to put Nirvana and onto Carl's space, and on top of that gets another action, and we'll choose to strike here. Okay, interesting. This can be basically anything. Can't be too many of the specials though. Not very many of the specials hit. The only ones that do hit are Foco, and yeah, this is just an assault. Brings Carl closer, 4 damage, but one the range 3 mix up there. Enchantress is choosing to wild swing, interestingly enough. Carl striking again. This feels like grass to me, maybe, to put Carl into the... Oh no, it's Sweep. Okay, so I had that completely backwards. Enchantress actually wants swinging the grass, so it's going to be a pretty bad trade for Enchantress taking 6, while Carl only takes 3. Did Carl take the appropriate amount of damage? Wait. Yeah, that seems wrong. Yeah, Miho's calling it out as well. Yeah, so that was an assault and a sweep that hit. But yeah, Enchantress. So this is kind of on frontside Enchantress. This is the kind of scenario that you want. Enchantress low on resources and kind of, especially striking here. Although she can probably get rid of the card. Oh, she can't. Okay, that's gonna be interesting. Conbrio was gonna be invalidated. We'll find something better. And Foco will also be invalidated, and we'll find something better. Carl has 2 force specials, so he actually, his wild swings are a little more consistent. Although a lot, frankly, you say that, but it's just a lot of his cards are used in very specific scenarios, so not really. But yeah, so Magic Shot, a lot of Enchantress is kind of a math game, like a math single player game of how can I dump my hand on front side, in a way that allows me to discard all my cards, so I can draw 6 at the end of the turn. So just a reminder here, on front side Enchantress, you can only activate your innates when your hand is empty. Apologies, I'm kind of doing a bad job of keeping the camera still. Let's keep the camera still now. So yeah, Magic Shot obviously costs a force, so you can spend that force from hand. So if you have 2 cards in hand, you lay down Magic Shot face down, the second card can be spent super easily. So generally, you want to, against frontside Enchantress, you want to kind of take advantage of her when she doesn't have a lot of cards in hand, no options. But on her advantage, she has a lot of different ways to get rid of those cards, right? Carl prepping needs a lot of cards, unfortunately, and his card economy is pretty slow. Doesn't really have too much going for him in terms of that. So I expect to see Carl prep a decent amount here. Enchantress immediately striking here. We can take a look at Enchantress cards here. Maybe, actually no, Pickle's a pretty fast player. We have Flying Charge into the block. Okay. So Flying Charge, in order to hit, Enchantress must spend some force from her hand, and she will swoop out of there. She'll advance a ton, basically end up on the other side of the map. She'll advance forward, so she'll basically be on the other side of the map. It's up to Carl to catch her again. And I feel like this is kind of the story of the matchup. Although she won't swoop too far, and she can actually spend up to 3 force even though she doesn't need to. She does not to, so she will advance here and then end up 3 spaces forward. So 1, 2, 3, 1 space closer than I initially pointed out, just because she needs to spend 2 force to come in. Just against the block from Carl Clover, so Carl gets a little bit of gauge. Enchantress doesn't have the most damage on her cards, so this one only does 4. Magic Shot from a couple turns ago only did 2. She doesn't have a lot of damage in her kit, but she's annoying. She'll come at you and then run away, and then drop her whole hand to run away again. And Carl deciding to just prep. So not fully away yet. All in all, the doll and Carl are still pretty close. But expect to see a lot of this. Carl, I feel like hopefully Nirvana doesn't catch herself flat-footed, just because of her movement deficiencies. Okay, Enchantress boosting light. One downside of Enchantress's kind of draw speed is that by the end of her, she reaches the end of her deck really quickly. So Pickle's gonna have to keep, as he just decides to move Carl 1, or he's not boosting now. He just decides to spend that move to range 2. Okay, that's an interesting one. Enabling things like cross on defense to beat Spike. As we see a change cards. Oh no, a reshuffle. Okay. I was gonna say, change cards seems weird here. The reshuffle is a little bit early. I'm surprised that Enchantress didn't want to maybe get some more value out of her first deck. So Enchantress is one of the characters that gets a free shuffle. When she exceeds, she can basically just start over again. Chooses to spend it early. I don't know if that's a good or bad play. Personally, I would like to be a little bit greedy with the deck, maybe, but maybe there are just not good cards left that Enchantress wanted to see. Okay, Carl responds, boosting Fierce, +2 power. Pretty standard stuff here. We can look at backside Enchantress' ability. So at the end of her turn, she can draw up to 7. Notably, this means that any turns that she does not strike, she can draw up to 7. Because this draw replaces the draw card at the end of your turn when you don't strike. So changes a little bit. Loses the ability to draw at end of strikes, but instead gets a way more reliable draw. So she's gonna have a ton of options in hand right now for the rest of the game. So let's see what Enchantress does with those options. So she's down a little bit of life, but has the light in play, and is also exceeded super quickly. Looking to strike here. Not a range 1, range 2. So this light boost. Obviously, you have to consider a thing like Spike in the mix-up, right? Especially with the light boost in play, even though we're only at range 2. And Enchantress does have a lot of cards that do work at range 2 as well. Actually, we're not. Unfortunately, Pickle's a super fast player, so I'm not going to pan down real quick to show you all the specials and ultras that she does have. Apologies for that. But maybe we'll look at the cards if we have some downtime after because Pickle. I played against Pickle recently. My one game of Exceed in the past 3 months was against Pickle, and he's pretty fast of a player. Letablis Cantata against the Assault. Okay, so opting for the safer option here in Assault, basically what is essentially a DP against the Letablis Cantata, which will kind of help Nirvana finally sandwich Enchantress, although Enchantress has a billion resources she can get out there super quick. So Assault will hit for only 2 damage because of the 2 armor, and Carl will hit back for 5. It is, however, Enchantress's advantage, and she can frankly, I would not be surprised if she just dumps her whole hand and runs to the other side of the board. That's the kind of Enchantress play that I'm kind of used to seeing. Yeah, and of course the hit effect pushes the opponent before Nirvana is able to be moved, and takes advantage of that. Now, Enchantress is in the sandwich, but like we said, it is her advantage, so she can just drop the hand and run away. Really, the only time Carl is a super scary character is when Nirvana is close by. And that's why I would actually really, really like to see Enchantress just walk away with her infinite force. Because she'll draw up to 7 at the end of the turn, right? She can just dump that whole hand, end up on the other side of the board, and she's got all these superior zoning tools here to help her out, like Magic Shot, Fire Wave, even the Ultra, although the Ultra's not online quite yet. I'd like to see a play like this happen, personally. Just try to really negate Carl's advantage state and make Carl spend the resources to have Nirvana come closer. Because a lot of the ways that Nirvana comes closer are on the specials, actually. So things like Code Foco as a combat card, Cantabile as a combat card or as a boost, Hurry Assists on Conbrio. These are important combat tools that Carl needs, and if he's spending them as the boosts, he won't have them as combat cards. Volante is the only one that works when Nirvana's at range. Well, sorry, I just wanted to zoom up, make sure nothing was happening. Okay, instead we have a reading come out. Okay. Is the Assault still in Carl's hand? Guess not. That block is still in the hand. We have a hand of Volante, Brio, Rhapsody, and Cantabile. So not the best looking hand, admittedly. Probably the response is just Cantabile, depending on what was called. Dive was red, okay. So maybe the response with, because this hand, frankly, is not a good looking hand. Oh, and I believe the block is no longer in. Pickle used his first block to actually block. So it's got to be like a block or a Cantabile coming out from Carl's side, surely, given that hand. And given that nothing else works. So it's Flying Charge. It's Brio. Okay, interesting. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I completely forgot. He's the. I just assumed that Nirvana was far away, because I was talking about how. I think Enchantress shouldn't overstay our welcome on this spot, but yeah, Brio also works here. Although Flying Charge will guard through it. So the only way to not get hit back is by Brio is if Enchantress gets pushed to the corner. But then if Enchantress gets pushed to the corner, then she can choose not to spend the force and stay here. Carl opts to push Enchantress the other way, which makes sense. This will be 4 damage Brio because of the sandwich. So now Enchantress she'll just end up in the corner anyway. She'll end up here because she has 4 cards in her hand. So basically the same thing happened, and yeah. So unfortunately, I apologize. I'm not in the best. I'm not thinking too hard today on these commentaries, but yeah, this seems like the best play for Carl, because now Nirvana is still pretty close. Range 2 is actually kind of awkward for Nirvana. You really prefer. So actually, none of the cards hit at range 2, right? This one hits at range 1, and this one hits at range 1, and then this one hits at range 3. The only one that does hit at range 2 is Kufuko, which is not. Actually, pretty powerful card. Kufuko, actually, on offense, not the most risky thing because you're 4 spots away, but does lose annoyingly to like Magic Shot. Kind of unfortunate. Loses to like random things, like you can, like if Nirvana or if Carl were to strike now, Enchantress could play like a random fast thing and hit the doll as well. So that's something to keep in mind there. But Enchantress is in like the proper corner. I would have preferred her to be in this corner, down life as well. So this is not over. But yeah, my advice for fighting Carl is just keep the doll away at all costs and don't get hit by Konfuko. That's basically it. Like, once you do both those things, you've basically won the match. I personally have had a lot of practice fighting. Like I would not be surprised if I was outside of maybe the dev team. I would not be surprised if I was the player that had the most anti-Carl experience, which is weird. Think about it. There are a lot of people that play Exceed for a long time. They've played way longer than me. They play way more of this game. But I would not be surprised if I was up there for people who have played against Carl Clover the most. That's definitely my advice for dealing with them. Okay, so we have a Fire Wave here. Immediate Strike from Enchantress saw the hand, which is 0 Cantabile, Volante, Rhapsody, and a random card. But yeah, Fire Wave makes a lot of sense here. Push Carl out of the way, although, well, even though you're pushing Carl out of the way, the response from Carl is probably just going to be to move here. Although the hand was known, and there's not a ton of scary stuff in there. Volante doesn't work. Brio was used. Cantabile does not work because Cantabile is the one special that hits from Carl. And Rhapsody, there's not enough gauge for Rhapsody. Do we expect to see maybe a change cards? No, Carl runs in. Okay, this also makes sense. Now Cantabile is a threat at speed 6 at range 3. Although, yeah, Cantabile will pull Enchantress out of the corner, which maybe, I don't know if that's a thing that she wants to do. Like, this positioning is pretty good. Like, I feel like this positioning is as good as it's going to get. Okay, Enchantress in response pushing Destructive Force. On hits, force the opponent to discard cards. If they don't, you get +3 power. And Enchantress will refill, draw 6 cards at the end of your turn. Let's see what Carl's response to this is. Like, Cantabile, in theory, is good here, right? Because you can pull 1 or 2, you can pull her into the sandwich. But in reality, you're putting her here, which puts her closer to where she wants to be, which is here. Which is right here, on the other side of the map, far, far away from Nirvana. But, I mean, it's still a speed 6 move, right? Speed 6, range 3 moves are good in this game. And Enchantress does not have a response to that. Does not have a fast response to that. Unless she is down to 3 cards in hand for whatever reason, in which case, like, Homie Orb works. But I don't think Enchantress is going to drop down to that hand size, personally, before the next combat. But yeah, she also obviously has, like, the guarded things, like something like a Flying Charge works, because Cantabile only does 1 damage. Fire Wave does not work. But Spiral Orb, I believe it's called. Apologies, a little bit of lag here. I hope it's not affecting these players. It looks like it might be. Whoops. They'll be fine. Spiral Orb also works as a guarded response, because the one thing, Cantabile is a good card, but the one thing it does not do is damage. Only has 1 damage on that card. Let's see what's... So Carl boosted Defend on his turn. This looks like a move action, maybe? Is this what I wanted to see? Yep, there it is. I like this a lot. Just get away from the doll. You know Volante's online, but Volante is not the scariest thing. Does Enchantress have ways to beat Volante? Actually, Volante is somewhat scary. If Carl's able to move into range 1, deal 5, that could be scary at the life total, but stay away from Nirvana. And it's easy to stay away from Nirvana, so why wouldn't you? And it's doubly easy on Enchantress, who can just build up Infinite Force, so I like this play a lot. But I'm not sure the range was enough, because he's still in Cantabile range, which I guess this was an interesting call, staying in the range of Cantabile. I would have maybe preferred him moving 1 space further. Just really negate that Cantabile threat, because Cantabile will pull him to the center of the board, and Nirvana will actually be able to sandwich, and Cantabile will get Carl advantage, and you're kind of letting Carl play the game in that sense. Don't let Carl play the game. Carl's a bad character. You don't have to let him play the game if you don't want to. At least that's my belief on Carl Clover, is that you don't want to invite Carl to play the game if you don't have to. And a lot of characters don't make Carl sad, and a lot of characters you have the choice on whether Carl Clover gets to play the game or not, in my opinion. Carl prepping in response. Okay, that's interesting. I thought we would have seen like a face-up Cantabile there, but maybe not. I don't know how many foci were spent, because if you face down Cantabile as Carl Clover from range 3, oh, what's going on here? I think he just pulled a card from here. Yeah, that's gonna ruin. That's gonna ruin this reference area. The reference areas are a little bit finicky. You can't do that. Yeah. Okay, he's got it fixed. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh, what I was saying is, yeah, if you play focus into it, the focus won't hit, but the goal of Cantabile is positioning an advantage, right? And you won't get the positioning, so you won't be able to do a lot with the advantage. So that would make Carl pretty sad, in my opinion. Although, it does have life lead. Okay, Enchantress striking in response. I wonder if this is the obvious Cantabile on defense. Pretty good defensive card. Anytime you have a speed 6 from range 3, that's going to be a good defensive card to pull, right? So the mix-up is Cantabile or not Cantabile that Enchantress is thinking of. To Cantabile or not to Cantabile. Also, am I pronouncing that word correctly? Dive beats Spike. I did not see that one coming at all. Wow. I did not see that one coming at all. Wow. Very, very pivotal combat there. I mean, Nirvana's still in no man's land, but now you can, like, Volante here. Bring Nirvana closer. You're already in the sandwich as Enchantress. You now have to get out of the sandwich. You either have to corner yourself or put yourself here close to Nirvana again. So wow, that was super. That was a huge combat win for Pickle. I did not see that one coming at all. Chuckly going for the spike there, which is that's a play. That's a swinging for a home run there. Yeah, I don't know about that. Just abuse the fact. Oh no, and this is gonna be a duet into Volante. So yeah, duet the boost on Letalus Katata turns this little baby sandwich into a super sandwich. This is gonna be a +4 power on hit if in between the two characters, and it's gonna be Volante. I'm assuming. Katabale also. Oh, Katabale loses to Grasp. Okay. Inch. Oh no, Katabale doesn't lose to Grasp. What am I saying? This is the sandwich. Nirvana gets +1 speed on the sandwich. And this will do billion damage. And wait, I was about to say, like, what? Why would he play Katabale? No, Katabale speed 7 there. Apologies for getting caught by that. I really shouldn't get caught by that. What? Isn't the game over? Shouldn't the game be over here? Did Pickle not... Oh no, it's only 5 damage. Okay, never mind. So the Katabale only does 1. +3 from Duet and +1 from Nirvana does 5. Apologies, I'm really not on top of my game today. While I was pondering life and why things were not matching up the way I thought they were in my head. Enchantress Wild swung the perfect answer to the Rage 1 sweep and dive. So still alive. EX attack. Not very many EXs left in this deck. We should be able to narrow this down. I'm not going to look through the discards personally. But something like Homing Orb, I believe, is still alive. I think even Assault is alive. There are a lot of options are gone from the Enchantress side, with 12 in discard and 3 engage. But we should be able to figure this out. Yeah, apologies on the commentary. I've been kind of behind the 8 ball here a little bit, but hopefully we can improve ourselves and make sure. Admittedly, I do have The Office running in the background. But I do apologize. I'm not catching these things I would normally catch, especially because Carl is a character that I am well versed in fighting against. Yeah, let me turn the TV off. We don't have The Office in the background now. We have our full attention on the game, and a good game it is. Carl nearly out of the Enchantress Woods here. Has Pickle not looked at the discard yet? Like, come on, man. I surely he has, and I just missed it while I was turning off the TV or something. But there's only like 2 or 3 different cards this could be. Yeah, huh. This endgame actually ended up being different than I expected. Konfuko in response to an EX? That seems sketchy. Is this like an EX sweep or something? Yeah, EX Homing Orb will pop that. Konfuko was a response I feel like wasn't winning a lot of combats there. Maybe I'm mistaken. But yeah, EX Homing Orb, I believe we called that out beforehand. Like, it could be Homing Orb or like Assault or something. It doesn't do a ton of damage. There's only 4 damage. We'll hit at range 3 because of 3 cards left. Interesting. Puts Carl closer. Is that... Maybe that seems fine. Putting Carl closer. Although you can, like, if he has, like, a cross or something in hand, then this is not great. Nirvana's positioning a little bit awkward here. At range 2. With Carl at range 2, Foko, although 1 with Span, is kind of a risky option, but, you know. It still does have the +1 power, +1 speed on specials and ultras. Although both Leitablos Cantatas are down. Like second... No, both Cantables are down. Like, Carl's deck, it doesn't have a ton of options left. And yeah, Pickle realizes that and opts for the reshuffle action. Okay. Yeah, I would say a lot of Carl's threats are down. Like, Cantabile is down here, which would be your super good game finisher at 7 speed. The Brio's, I believe one Brio's down, but Brio's not in good positioning here. Something like, yeah, just I agree with this reshuffle action, basically, is what I'm trying to say. We can take a quick look at the Astral here. We're probably not going to see this in play as combat. We're just going to see it as a burst. Kind of like a weird... I don't think I've ever seen... I mean, I've seen this card played once. Can be a game finisher, but it's not nearly a reliable game finisher. It's something like whatever Hawkman's is. It's not nearly as reliable as that, although it's like similarly placed. 10 damage is a lot. 4 armor's good. Very slow, but Nirvana can't be flipped, so that's super important. A lot of times you hit the doll, and Carl is sad, so you can't hit the doll here on this ultra, as well as the other ultra, as well as Rhapsody of Memories. Nirvana can't be flipped. Those cards are super important to at least represent sometimes, because otherwise your doll's just gonna get hit over and over again. You're not gonna be able to do anything. You're gonna be like half a character, and you're barely a working character as is. So, yep, this reshuffle makes sense to me. A little bit slow, but Carl has 13 HP to work with here. Putting the Astral in hand. Probably just going to see a burst next turn come from Carl into something. Yeah, so Nirvana actually been striking a ton on her turn. So the one downside to backside Enchantress is that you do not get to refill after striking. And Enchantress has been striking a lot, down to 3 cards in hand. Okay, opts for running. Runs into the corner. That to me is an interesting one, because now... What if Volante? Like, what's the answer to Volante here? Like, the only answer, I think it was like Spike to Volante. Or like a card that moves forwards, like a flying charge, like a dive. I feel like this is just Carl playing Volante and saying, hey, do you have a card that advances you forward? That's, I believe Volante is still in hand from that one time the hands were revealed like 25 minutes ago. Spike into Spike. Spike into Spike. I did not see that one coming. I mean, obviously, Enchantress was thinking, okay, so there was no Volante in hand, so there you go. That's how much attention we're paying to this game. Apologies for that. You know what? I pledge to do a better job this game of keeping track of hand info and game state and all that, because I really wasn't doing my job. But yeah, Spike into Spike. I mean, probably Enchantress trying to read the either the Volante or like a slow attack. Obviously, unfortunately, it doesn't work out. Carl trying to read a slow attack, but Spike beats Spike on offense, right? So we are 1-0 to Picklesword here, or Picklesword. Again, we have not received confirmation on how to appropriately split the word. Do we split it here or here? No confirmation on that. But yeah, Carl beats Enchantress in a matchup that I thought would be difficult for Carl, but Pickle doing a good job there, taking advantage of the game state and just pumping damage into Enchantress. Frankly, like, won a couple key combats there in the middle that cemented an early life lead. And that Nirvana, although she kind of, by the end of the game, she kind of ended up nowhere. Not necessary. Carl Carl just played normals. One like one dive, one spike did 11 damage, right? Carl just played normals to close out the game early. Anyway, moving on to game 2, that's going to be Carl Clover, unavailable for Pickle for the rest of the set. He will only have Cammy and Treasure Knight. Chuckly can play Enchantress again if he so chooses. Also has Emogene and Sajin on the team. Looks like both players are ready to reveal their characters. Let's get those health totals back to 30. I feel like these guys are experiencing lag on their end, and I also feel like it's my fault, but I'm not going to say anything. Okay, life total set to 30. Let's see what the matchup is. Looks like we got TK against Sajin. Okay. Pickle going for Treasure Knight here. Against Sajin. So two super tanky characters. Well, yeah, Sajin, I guess, is a tanky character because they're front side. Sajin's more of like an EX character. Although I really don't know where I'm going with these archetypes. And Treasure Knight is, I mean, as we saw last week in Pickle's match, maybe? Treasure Knight's a tanky boy. He's got a lot of different ways to add armor, tack on armor, and attempt to trade up. Against Sajin, Queen of the large hand and unfair EXs, Queen of the splash spike mix up at range 3. It should be an interesting one. Especially because Sajin, I think, is regarded as a very good character. She's not regarded as the best or as the top tier of season 2. But I think she's up there. I think I'd put her in A tier. And Treasure Knight, known as a bad character, although Chica last tournament made us think about that one. Made Treasure Knight look really, really good. Let's see if Pickle can do the same here. Pickle, we actually saw, as I mentioned before, we actually saw him play Treasure Knight last week. Should I spoil? You know what? I'll spoil it. He won as well. Good match. It was actually a really interesting match to watch. It was a Treasure against Ragna. And Treasure was able to trade up on Ragna, which is something that you wouldn't normally expect. But yeah, let's see if Treasure can use that tankiness to tank through, to tank through the splash spike mix up and everything else that Sajin has, like these powerhouse ultras, and the immense amount of cards that she draws. Interestingly enough, I don't see a ton of Season 2 characters do this. But Sajin has opted to go second in this matchup. Chuckly obviously losing game 1. If you're just joining us, don't know why you'd be just joining us now. But yeah, Chuckly lost game 1 and is now playing Sajin, is mulliganing the incorrect way, but you know what, fine, we'll allow it. Normally when you mulligan, you're supposed to set these cards aside and then draw new ones and then put them back. I don't know if Chuckly did that game 1 or not. We're not gonna say anything though. We'll allow it in my room. Yeah, we'll allow this one in my room. Apologies for that. I was just drinking some water. I'll actually take another sip here. Carl initiating turn 1. Like this a lot. The super scary option here, we'll take a look at it. Anchor launch. Bunch of damage with a sweep effect. Mad slow though, only 2 speed. But if you're up against Treasure Knight, you always have to be cognizant of this card. I feel like the threat of this card is way bigger than the chance of it actually hitting, but you know. It's the threat that counts, right? This could even just be like a dive to try to, because Treasure Knight really likes succeeding as soon as possible in a lot of cases. So maybe it could just be that. Could even see it being a block, just to ensure some early gauge buildup. Although I don't think it's block personally, but yeah, I mean, a couple things to keep in mind. Could also in theory be Treasure Coin. Don't think it's Treasure Coin, but yeah, just dive into a single naked dive from Sajin. Obviously trying to beat out that anchor launch card that we were talking about. That's so good. Unfortunately, loses the speed tie here. Down 5 life, and treasures up close, but gets that first gauge in. Again, I can't stress this enough. The Treasure Knight flipping is just so good. Okay, Seijin gets the perfect response to Ink Spike here in focus. Very nice wild swing here from Pickle. So Ink Spike does 1 billion damage. Actually, it only does 6 here, so Sweep would have also done the job. Normally, I'm used to this card doing 7. But Ink Spike, 1/2 of the Spike Splash mix-up. The other half is a 1 to 3, 4 power for X speed. Very, very good mix-up for Seijin. But yeah, Pickle getting the perfect response in focus. Able to tank some of that damage, deal damage back, and get that second gauge in. 2 gauge already early for Treasure Knight here. And Seijin had to spend 2 cards, right? For her first 2 turns, where Treasure only had to spend 1 and got 1 back. So the card disparity that you normally see between Seijin and her opponent is definitely less, because Seijin had to spend effectively 2 cards in the last 2 combats, and Treasure Knight had to spend 0. So Treasure Knight off to a very good early lead here, in my opinion. Let's see if he can translate this into a quick exceed. Okay, the range 1 assault into the Foxfire. Okay, so mission successful. Treasure Knight gets his 3rd gauge. The range 1 assault, a little bit of a risky option here. Obviously, with only 5 speed, 2 below the speed curve. But, you know, I like this a lot. We'll get hit back for 6, and we'll get pushed back 2 into Spike Splash range. But, got the 3rd gauge. While he traded down, he was up a bunch of life anyway, so totally fine. Foxfire, not the most important transform for Seijin. So, Chuckly just opts to gauge this. And guess what? Treasure succeeded already. Already exceeded on like turn 3. So yeah, things are looking good for Treasure now. So now we can look at Treasure's ability. When spending force, you can generate 1 force for free whenever you want, which is great because all these cost a bunch of force. We went through these last week, so I don't think we're gonna go through them again. And if we didn't go through them last week, then my bad. But yeah, basically all these cards spend force, and they're now free. And then, like, this boost is insane because this boost is 1 force for 3 armor. That's one of the main reasons why Treasure Knight's considered a tanky boy. Here's another one, High Tide plus 2 armor. Obviously free because of Treasure Knight's ability, as Pickle, I think, is pointing out to his opponent. So yeah, exceeding, and remember, frontside Treasure, I don't think I actually mentioned this, but frontside Treasure can only do this during strikes, but backside Treasure can do this whenever he wants. So that's why this exceed was so important. That's why I think Treasure Knight's so big here. Okay, Seijin crossing across. Treasure was pulled because of the ability on Treasure. Just kind of like a random thing to be tacked on. Maybe, I'm assuming like Treasure Knight in the Shovel Knight game does something like this, and that's why this succeed thing was tacked on, but you know. Treasure says, no. Let's come back to range 1. Spends a cross of his own to do so. So it's the plus 2 armor with ability to push if he so desires, for 1 force, because the boost was free, but the before trigger is a separate thing that can also be discounted. So that's why when you look at Treasure's kit, you see, hey, there's a lot of overpriced garbage here, but it's not overpriced when everything's discounted, right? A little bit of lag there. Hopefully no one noticed. Okay, Seijin spending assault to retreat into the corner. Okay, really wants that range 3. Like really wants that range 3. So much so that she puts herself in the corner to get it. I wonder if Treasure Knight is willing to spend 2 force to get into her face again. Range 3, I mean, as we said before, it doesn't need saying. The Spike Splash mix-up is an excellent reason to prefer range 3 as any character. So, while it's not surprising to see Seijin go to range 3, it is a little bit surprising to see Seijin corner herself. Normally you like to see Seijin's like in the middle of the board so they can hit the whole dang thing, but okay. Chuckly excuse me, Treasure performing the change card 0 action, hopefully. If Pickle's a real Treasure Knight main, they will perform the change card 0 action, generate a force, and draw 2, instead of preparing. If they are a real Treasure. If they're a fake Treasure Knight player, then they just prepared on that turn. In response, Seijin boosting Light plus 2 speed. Pretty standard stuff. Plus 2 speed, pretty scary at range 3. Okay. So Treasure Knight can generate a force for free whenever he wants, including the move action, which people don't really recognize. So Treasure spends 1 force from hand to move 2 spaces. Very cheap movement there. I was wondering whether it would happen last turn, but he chooses to do it in response to the Light instead. This makes sense to me. Speed normally, colloquially known to not matter nearly as much as at range 1, and not even colloquially, just in general. Matters less at range 1 than at range 2 or 3. Or further away, I guess, than range 1. So Treasure Knight putting on his actually, I don't know. I don't remember what character generates a force for free with movement. It wasn't like a reaction, but I don't know if there's a character that does that. But basically, Treasure Knight's innate is now like 5 different characters. Okay, parry coming out from Seijin. Unsuccessful. We'll take a look at the hand here. Normals, we have 002. Specials, we have Treasure Coin, and we have 1 of each Ultra. The parry was on Dive Charge. Okay, that's an interesting one. We'll take a look at Dive Charge here. I believe it's this one. Yeah, 1343. And yeah, you can see why Dive Charge was parried here. Seijin's in the corner, so this push 3 effect is essentially equivalent to plus 3 power. So this would be a pretty hefty Dive Charge coming out. The boost is okay. The boost is a grass boost extra, plus extra stuff, which is obviously good. But I think it looks like Chuckly was a little bit wary about the attack itself. So not the most impressive defenses on it, but could do a ton of damage. And the defense is here, right? Plus 2 armor still in play. Interesting. Okay, so Treasure striking immediately could be the sweep, if I had to guess. Or maybe Pickle wants Chuckly to think that this is Treasure spending the sweep in hand. Probably the normal that could be punished the most with like Spike, although both blocks get punished super easily too. Normally, when you see a hand revealed that includes parry, the counterplay to that is parry focus, so that way you don't get red. But in both cases today, Pickle has opted to go for a more aggressive option, which, you know what, if you're playing the numbers and luck is on your side, it can work out really well for you. So the read here, even though we saw that hand, the read here is sweep in my opinion, just to get that normal out of the hand, but could not be sweep, you know. That could be the bait. We just have to wait and see. And let's see if Chuckly's Seijin picks the right response here. And we know the entire hand. It's 002, Treasure Coin, Angler Call, Maelstrom Chest. Ultras don't matter here, and Treasure Coin doesn't matter here, so it's actually just block or sweep. Actually, in fact, almost assuredly sweep, given that we know that hand information. There's the sweep, and sure, here's one way to dodge it. Just run to the other side of the board. Okay, yeah, this makes sense to me. Unfortunately, Inari Guidance has a really, really, really good transform on it. So losing the ability to EX transform Inari Guidance for Kitsune's Pride is like lame. This basically, sorry, we'll find this card again. This basic, as Seijin crosses in, we will look at this. When you set your attack, you can spend 2 force, which Seijin has a bunch of force in hand because she draws a billion cards. If you do, your attack is +1 max range. Insane. Absolutely insane. Doesn't even require it to be an EX boost like Kitsune Wrath. But Inari Guidance, I feel like it's going to be a little bit difficult to hit. So yeah, unfortunate to lose that, but hey, it's better. It's probably worth it in the grand scheme of things, not taking 6 damage to that sweep, right? So definitely worth it. In response, Pickle uses one of those blocks to parry focus. Makes sense to me. This was the play that we were talking about just a couple minutes ago. Pretty standard play. You see basically everyone doing that. Okay, Seijin spending an assault from hand to move to range 3. Don't need to tell you about that splash spike mix-up, but I will mention it briefly. Treasure, okay. Content with range 3 for now. Opts prepare. Seijin gets her super boosted. Draw up to 5 cards, so she'll draw a full hand here. Full hand for Seijin, of course, is 9. We'll get extra guard as well. We'll have 4 guard instead of... okay, interesting. Opts for... Has to discard at the end of turn. Because she opted to draw 6. Okay, so valuing that little bit of extra deck cycling here. And obviously there's got to be a card here that doesn't need to pull its weight. That can be discarded easily for Seijin, and yeah, it's that Foxfire. Foxfire commonly regarded as Seijin's worst special, although hey, if your worst special is a 1/2 6/3/4, that gives you a push for extra movement to get to that range 3 mix up. It's not a bad special. Just that transforms a little bit weak as well. You're rarely gonna see Seijin have less cards in hand than her opponent. So this doesn't get transformed in like 95% of cases anyway, so not a big deal to drop that. Notably, Seijin has gone through a lot of her deck. She has 9 cards in... I guess not a lot of her deck. She's only gone through about half her deck. Only has the Kitsune Wrath off Inspike transformed. Seijin, a character, like a lot of Season 2 characters, really likes those transforms. Only has 1 transformed so far. It is still early days though. Health total's relatively, like, Seijin has 17 health. And the game's far from over, right? But just interesting to note. I felt like Seijin went through more of her deck than I thought she did, but I guess not. Okay, Treasure looking to boost here. Boost Cross. Moving to range 1. Okay. You really see Treasure... This is the second time that Treasure has stood at range 3 and then opted to move in. So you can definitely see the reasons why, right? We're not going to go through that again, but yeah, just a tip for the newer players here: make sure your positioning is good. Make sure you're positioning yourself in a way that you're setting yourself up for success, whether it's for the cards in your hand or because Seijin is an insane character that has a mix-up at range 3 as powerful as hers. You really want to position yourself optimally in this game. That's definitely something that newer players struggle with, or at least definitely something that I struggled with, and I see other newer players struggle with as well. Make sure you're positioning yourself well, and use your boost well. To use your boosts and use your other resources, so even force, to ensure that. It looks like Treasure's responding with an EX here. A little bit spicy. Ink Spike, the range 1 Ink Spike against the Scuttle Slam will stun out the Ink Spike. This is a spicy Ink Spike. That is a spicy Ink Spike. That is a 4-speed. The card actually does have defenses. I believe it has 4 guard. So actually, Ink Spike won't get stunned by Scuttle Slam. So Spicy Ink Spike actually does end up working out because we can actually take a look at Seijin's innate ability here. She has +1 guard for every 2 cards in hand. Because she's refilled her hand, she's 4 guard. She's 8 cards in hand and 4 guard. So this Ink Spike will not get stunned and will hit back for 7. So actually huge combat win there. Unfortunately, Treasure with the EX Scuttle Slam, not a lot of damage behind that. So this was normally regarded as like a mid-speed attack. This Ink Spike was actually functioned well as a slow attack in the triangle there. Ended up beating the fast but not particularly deadly Scuttle Slam because of the refill. Yeah, at first glance, this looked like a card that didn't have enough defenses to be played at range 1, but essentially just ended up being like a good slow attack, right? And notably also does well against other slow attacks as well. Anyway, Treasure boosting Salvage Operation, +1 power, +1 armor. Just a little bit extra trading power there. And a little bit of recursion as well. Actually gets teched by Seijin here. Interesting decision there. Treasure's a lot of good boosts. I'm not really sure which ones you want to attack. The one that I can think of immediately that you want to attack is the +3 armor. But this boost is okay to attack as well. Maybe he doesn't want to see any recursion come out, and speak of the devil, it is the +3 armor boost. So this boost is free, and it reads, when you are hit, you can spend 1 force for +3 armor. Pretty good. Like this is one of the main reasons why Treasure Knight is such a, he's regarded as a thick boy, you know, because he can generate just a lot of armor, and this card is one of the reasons why. But yeah, that Ink Spike, really big combat win from Sajin. Really brought her back into the game. Had a little bit of a life deficit. Unfortunately, already has Kitsune's Wrath transformed, so the Ink Spike does go to Gauge. Also, the one half of the Splash Spike mix-up is missing, although Ink Spike can be replaced by like normal Spike, and that mix-up's not the biggest deal in the world. And Sajin's setting EX attack here. We should be able to narrow this down somewhat. The thing I can think of is Ink Splash, 8 speed for 5 damage, pretty good here. Yokai Banishing, another important transform that was actually, I believe we haven't seen a Yokai come out. Don't think we've seen Ink Splash come out either. It's not any of those. It's not an Ultra, only 2 gauge. As far as normals are concerned, this could even be like could be Sweep. Could be like, I don't think it's I don't think it's EX Grasp personally, but it could be EX Grasp, I believe. But yeah, Sajin down a lot of her deck. Pickle should be able to narrow this down to maybe 2 or 3 different options on what this could be. I do hope it's an EX special from Sajin, just because she really does need to start getting things transformed. She's almost, well, the game's almost over, but she's almost out of cards in deck as well before her reshuffle. Although opting for this kind of, this method of transforming instead of the EX transform mechanic would be an interesting decision. Maybe he just needs deciding, hey, need to start putting damage in before Treasure Knight hits me back. So I can see why Sajin would opt for an EX special attack here. Reminder, so Sajin will have +3 guard, so this will be 1 armor, 4 guard on this EX attack, and Treasure Knight has +3 armor if he chooses to spend a force, which he will. In nearly every case if he gets hit. So yeah, tricky combat here coming out from Sajin. Let's see what he's got. It's a pivotal combat here, I would definitely say. Maybe even the most important combat of the game. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the discards here, although both players are. Nah, it's fine. We will leave what EXs are left as an exercise for the reader. There we go. Okay. Oh, taking it back. A little bit of hesitation here for Pickle. Places it down. Let's see what we got. We've got EX Yokai Banishing, one of the specials that we called out. So this will push a bunch, or draw cards. And we've got Dive Charge here. So Dive Charge will not hit if Yokai Banishing pushes 3. And looks like Treasure is going to opt for that. So Yokai Banishing will only do 0 damage after the 3 armor that Treasure Knight will gain. But on the plus side, hey, you don't get hit for Dive Charge, which was only going to do 3 damage, but it was also going to push Sajin back. Maybe not something that Sajin wanted. And now Sajin has Meddlesome transform. Meddlesome, an important boost, because Sajin draws a bunch of cards, and you don't want to get red, right? That's the most obvious reason that Meddlesome exists, so that this character just doesn't automatically die to reading. As Treasure prepares, or changes card 0, excuse me. Treasure never prepares on backside. Change card 0 from Treasure. And Sajin opting for a reshuffle here. Okay. So yeah, looking at this boost, super important. But also, like, hey, stuffs random grasp boost, stuffs random sweep boost. Like, if Treasure wants to run away. He can't do so reliably with Cross and Assault. He has to use his movement, although he has better movement than the rest of the cast because of his innate, of course. But yeah, a pretty important transform for Seijin, in my opinion, at least. Doesn't have the Inari guidance one, unfortunately, which is really the one that really helps Seijin dominate combats. But these two are pretty good. This one, obviously, I don't think we actually read this one, but giving Seijin a little bit of power when she needs it on EX attacks specifically. Treasure Knight boosting. Oh, did Treasure Knight not change card 0? I think Treasure Knight maybe boosted Diving Suit instead. So another +3 armor. That extra trading potential is still there from Treasure Knight. Oh, that is the second one. So not a whole lot of armor left in that deck for Treasure Knight to trade with. Okay, back to Seijin. I don't know if the Seijin player likes succeeding or not. So as Seijin, when you succeed, it's really to close out the game. You lose your defenses, but you draw a bunch of cards. Actually, I wouldn't even say it's to close out the game. It's kind of like a playstyle thing. Whether you prefer the extra defense on front side, or you prefer the extra card draw on backside. Seijin's setting EX attack with +2 power, I'm assuming. +2 power into either the Ultra Boost or the Exceed next turn is what I'm thinking. Yep, this is Kitsune's Wrath in play. +1 power looks like. Okay, interesting. Maybe thinking he can pop a breakpoint with that. Okay. So we have EX Grasp just into block. Okay. Not as explosive of a combat as we initially thought. This block is going to block everything for free. So this block has 4 armor because of Treasure Knight's innate ability, and that's enough. So actually Treasure would take 1 here, because this is a 5 power EX Grasp coming in. Let's see if Treasure wants to spend a force for +3 armor. Yep, opts to do so. Takes nothing. It's gonna be 7 armor, more than enough for a 5 power EX Grasp. So a little bit of an underwhelming turn. I thought that would be a little bit more explosive than it was, but Treasure Knight was prepared, and Seijin opted for the fast option. Both diving suits are down though until reshuffle for Treasure Knight. Both players just opting. Treasure Knight opting for the CC0, Seijin opting for the prepare. And here comes Secure Vault on hit. So normally I mess this up. This is a hit ability. I believe I misread this card before. But on hit, you can spend 2 force, you can spend 1 force, and then generate that second force for free. And for each force spent, you can build a little bit of gauge, and then draw some cards. So a lot of the Season 4 characters have these Ultra Boosts that allow you to rebuild your resources, and this is Treasure Knight's version of that. But notably, unlike the other characters who have Ultra Boosts like this one requires Treasure Knight to hit. So that can be important. Notably staying at range 3, however, so that's Splash Spike mix-up, although it's not with Ink Spike with both of these down, it's with a regular Spike in play for Seijin here. Okay, I believe it is Seijin's turn now. Looking at that discard, maybe thinking... Oh no, I could be thinking of a reading, but also more than half the cards discarded from Treasure Knight's deck. Not a lot left, right? Probably narrowing down some options that he doesn't have to worry about. Very important thing to do in Exceed. Make sure you know your opponent's options, all of them, as far as what's left and what's not. Let's see what Seijin does here. She's at a range that I think is preferable for her. Doesn't have the most cards on hand, only has 6. A little bit low for Seijin. Pretty high for everyone else, but a little bit low for Seijin. who likes to throw out those EXs you know, I had a candy simile because it was just Halloween, and I just lost the words for it. So yeah. But yeah, let's see if Seijin thinks she has enough cards here to initiate, or whether she wants a little bit more. Because when she starts getting those transforms in, they cost a decent amount of force. And while they're extremely worth it for breaking big breakpoints and such, and for breaking damage thresholds, they do cost a lot. So yeah, Seijin's just going to prep here. That's why backside Seijin allows you to draw a card. That's why I feel like that's good for finishing games, just because you get that little bit extra card draw that you need to boost your transforms, to get the most value out of your transforms, excuse me. Yeah, Seijin just prepping. Up to 8 cards in hand, so this will be +3 guard if Seijin plays a card from hand, or +4 on a Wild Swing. Let's see what Treasure Knight does here. Obviously, he wants to try his best to hit because of his Ultra Boost. Generally, you want to try your best to hit in this game, in general. But doubly so to get the value out of the Ultra Boost. Okay, this is going to be a reading. Before this card's face down, Seijin should be able to like block it, or like given the opportunity to block it, because of Meddlesome. Okay, so we'll discard the focus, and this strike will not happen. Yep, and that's the protection there from reading. Did you draw a card end of turn? Okay. So I just want to make sure that Pickle draws for end of turn here, because the turn is ended. Even though this card calls for a strike, Seijin can just say, "Nah, don't feel like it." And trust me, Seijin doesn't want to get read with all these potential cards in hand to read. Yeah, you discard the focus there every time. Unless they're all specials, I guess. Then you don't discard, but you know. Yeah, so it doesn't get that free confirm for Secure Vault. Maybe Seijin strikes here in response. Try to win in combat. EX coming out. So you have a mix up between regular Spike, Speed 4, Ignore Armor, Ignore Guard, and Ink Splash, Speed 8, 5 damage, actually 7 damage now. So yeah, this is Seijin, man. Seijin builds cards and then plays unfair EXs. This is going to be an EX with +2 power on it from Kitsune Wrath. So yeah, is it Spike or is it Ink Splash? I guess is the question. And essentially it's a true 50-50 of whatever Seijin has drawn, because we haven't seen too much information leak on the reshuffle. So yeah, just a 50-50. You gotta guess. You gotta guess right, and that's Seijin the character, right? Just build up those hands to play the unfair EXs that win games. Could even be something like EX Assault, obviously, or like EX Dive, whatever, what have you. Treasure responds. Okay, responds with Assault, banking on Spike, and let's see it. It is Spike. Well done. Well done. So Assault Speed 5 will beat out EX Spike Speed 4. Just banking, just praying that this wasn't the EX Splash. Calls out the EX Spike successfully. It's been like, I don't know if it could have been EX Dive. I feel like there was a dive in here. But yeah, well done. Sometimes you just gotta play a thing that looks unsafe but beats half of the mix-up, right? So we'll get the Secure Vault as well. Huge combat win for Treasure Knight here. Well done. So we'll spend Force, and for each Force spent, we'll add the top card from discard to engage, and we'll draw a card for every 2 cards engage. So Treasure will draw 3 cards off this. treasure draw the cards. I'm assuming he's doing that now. Yeah. Okay. Looks like these guys got it under control. But yeah. Treasure. Change card 0. I know the chat says that he prepped. He did not prep. He changed card 0. And Sagen prepping in response. Probably makes sense. Got to refill that hand. Spend 4 cards on that last combat. So Sagen, while she does draw a lot of cards, she is quite expensive as far as spending cards from hand goes. And Treasure in response, boosting defend. And I'm just gonna I didn't pay the most attention here, but I'm assuming he's got the right cards in hand. He Pickle is a Treasure Knight player. He's got it under control. Siege striking 1 card. I like the take back from Pickle here. Get play those mind games. I like it. 1 card here from Sagen. Wonder if this is splash, the range 1 splash, just to get that transformed. Although, if it is the range 1 splash, it doesn't have a ton of health to trade with. So maybe it's not that. Notably, only 3 gauge here, so no ultras. Like, Sagen has been unable to threaten ultras all games, which is unfortunate. Okay, it was the Inari Guidance. Gets called out by Grasp. Yeah. Just really... We called the wrong special that Sagen wanted to transform. Unfortunately, the Inari Guidance gets called out. We'll hit for 3. Oh no, it's Sagen. What am I saying? Sagen has a bunch of guard. Oh, and it looks like okay, so here's what happened. This grass could have totally popped or made the Inari Guidance miss. The guard was not popped on Inari Guidance, so I think Pickle just like messed up. Should have put Sagen here. Actually exactly right here. So huge misplay. Not actually pretty critical misplay on Treasure Knight's part. So for those of you that didn't, because I didn't really explain that combat too well. What happened was Grasp beats Inari on speed, right? So Grasp, you can push or pull, yada yada. You know the text on Grasp, right? But Inari had enough guard, right? Because of Sagen's frontside ability. Inari had exactly 3 guard, so Sagen was not stunned and was able to use Inari Guidance. And Inari Guidance, she didn't need to advance forward, right? Because she was put in the appropriate spot where Inari Guidance would hit. Such a huge misplay from Treasure Knight, right? If you don't want Inari Guidance to hit, you put her right here. But unfortunately, Pickle, I guess, put her down too late. And then that Inari Guidance hit back for 5. So, and gets transformed. So any attack that Sagen plays now can have extra range for force. So pretty massive blunder there on Pickle's part. Hopefully it doesn't cost him the game or anything. But yeah, I mean, Sagen needed this kind of play to get back into the game. It was getting whittled down a little slowly here. It still does take 3 damage on 6 HP, but now it does have that super important Kitsune's Pride transformed. Apologies for that. I said I would be on top of my game, and I feel like I'm not. But hopefully you guys are enjoying the game at the very least, despite me missing a lot of these plays that are happening. Okay, Sagen deciding now's my time to get some resources. Ops to succeed becomes a dog wolf thing. Is that a wolf? Is that a dog? Looks like a wolf. I think it's a wolf. You know what? Well, Siege turns into a wolf here. Okay, very cool, very cool. So when she succeeds, she draws 3 cards. No longer has the hand limit. The one downside to this is that she's forced to draw a card at the start of her turn, which can be good, can be bad. Siege down to 5 cards left, deck out. Now a very real possibility. Treasure Knight sees this and moves back 4 spaces. Says, "Hey, Sajin, you gotta spend resources to come up, and you gotta waste a turn doing so." Super. This seems correct. Yeah. Sajin does cross in, wastes a turn, unfortunately. So Sajin now down to 3 cards in deck. She could, in theory, deck herself out, and the game could be over. On the bright side, if Treasure hasn't drawn his armored options yet, there's a chance that Sajin can deal enough damage in the next couple turns. But Sajin's really got to start striking every turn now. Because she's put herself in a little bit of a predicament. I wouldn't call it a predicament, but she's put herself on a timer here. This succeed was hopefully it wasn't too late. Okay, treasure boosted. Fine, whatever. I boost assault to move to range 4. So now the range 3 options will require a Kitsune's Pride to work. Notably, both Spike and In Spike are down on Sajin's side. So if there's like armored options on Treasure Knight's side, in which he has a lot of armored options, to be fair, this could be trouble. Like maybe Sajin is unable to close out the game despite her playing EXs that have a billion power attached to them. So yeah, this is a very interesting game state. Let's see if Chuckly is able to use the extra card draw to close out the game here. Obviously, spends the force for +2 power, and will spend 2 force for plus range as well. So yeah, I mean this is the power of Kitsune's of Sajin's backside, right? Of the dog. You have a lot of resources to spend. Angler Call will. That's it. That is it. Angler Call, the Ultra, which we have not seen Ultras all game from Treasure Knight, right? Angler Call, huge trading ability with that stun immunity. Ink Splash here, 5 power. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Angler Call, stun immunity, and 3 armor on top of that. And Station unable to move out of the way from it, right? Angler Call hits 2 to 4, so from here to here. So yeah, that's gonna be it. The Ink Splash will hit for 5, -3 will hit for 2, and Angler Call will hit back for 8, for 7 after armor, excuse me, and that's the game right there. So yeah, I mean we weren't really looking so much at Treasure Knight's tools, but yeah, Treasure Knight has range tools, right, to deal with the +1 range, and we just saw an example of it here. I think maybe Chuckly forgot about that Ultra as well, like we did, because we saw the Ultras boosted as boosts all game, right? But you know, these Ultras, you know, and Maelstrom Chest also hits from here technically, right? Although that is an unguarded speed 5. So like for example, if the situation was reversed, like if the Ink Splashes were down, then maybe this could be a viable option. But obviously with Ink Splash up and the spikes down, and like this has stun immunity, so it doesn't even care about the spike, doesn't care about any damage. And with the life lead here that Treasure Knight built up, yeah, makes perfect sense to me. Don't know if Chuckly forgot about it like we did, or if he just said, hey, if you have it, you have it, because Treasure did have to draw through some of his decks, so there was a chance that he didn't draw through it. Although there's also a chance that I believe he had 1 copy left in his deck, and he could have just kept it before the reshuffle. But anyway, yeah, Treasure Knight just a little bit too tanky. Just winning that those 1 or 2 extra combats to build that life lead, and Sajin unable to close the gap, and to close the gap both in positioning at range 4 and in terms of the life deficit as well. Just unfortunately just lost 1 too many combats, and Treasure Knight, he's a tanky boy, he's able to trade. He's able to trade up. We knew this from the start of the game. We knew that Treasure Knight had the ability to trade and trade well. Uh, we did not analyze the cards super well. So we missed this ultra, but it makes perfect sense to me. Uh, yeah, well played by Pickle here, taking the set 2-0 over ChucklyFun. I would like to thank both these guys for letting me cast their game. Would like to thank you for watching, sticking by for what ended up being a pretty long set, maybe like an hour and a half, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think this was a pretty interesting set overall to cast. Apologies for not really, for being a little bit off my game today as far as recognizing what options were up and what plays were happening. But thank you to both these players and thank you to you for watching. If you liked what you saw, maybe hit the like, maybe drop a comment, maybe drop a subscribe if you would like. And yeah, hopefully we get to. So I will actually be away all weekend, so I won't be able to cast too many more games. Maybe I can cast a game tomorrow, but I unfortunately will be away all weekend, so I won't be able to catch those weekend games. But I hope you guys enjoy the content. I don't play this game a lot, but I do enjoy casting it. And obviously, you know, it's nice to catch these games, especially, you know, these games with two players who are relatively positioned well. And I believe both of these players were 2-1 coming in, so this was essentially a tournament elimination match, right? Unfortunately, ChucklyFun no longer in. Well, it's basically no longer in contention for that top 4 that you need to advance in the tournament. But yeah, it's super great to watch these matches, and I'm really happy to bring these to you. And I will be bringing more to you in the future. It's not over the weekend, unfortunately, but maybe next week we'll get some good matches in. But yeah, that's enough rambling for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you for the next one. Bye-bye.